So I just finished reading this book. It's called The Fish That Ate the Whale: The Life and Times of America's Banana King. And it was written by Rich Cohen. This is the biography of Sam Zemurray. And he would rise from the lowest ranks of a fruit peddler to run United Fruit, who was the world's largest fruit company for more than 25 years. And I'm currently making a podcast about this book, and it takes quite a bit of time to read the book, pull out all of the highlights, and summarize everything. So I thought what I would do here is just spend a couple of minutes to share the early years of Sam's life and how he was able to discover his purpose, how he got into the banana trade, in the very first victory that he made as a young man. I guess this is just kind of a mini preview of what the longer podcast will entail. That's probably not going to come out for another month or two, is I have about 4 or 5 ahead of it. But I just wanted to give you a little sample here. Let's jump into the book. Sam traveled to America with his aunt in 1892. He landed in New York. He was 14 or 15, but you would guess him much older. The immigrants of the era could not afford to be children. They had to struggle every minute of every day. From his first months in America, he was scheming, looking for ways to get ahead. And I've really enjoyed reading this book. There's a lot of really wise lessons in here that I think that you and I can definitely use in business. And we see right here that when Sam arrives in 1892, he doesn't really have the luxury to just sit back. He's grinding right away, scheming and figuring out ways to make money. And what he's going to do is he's going to leave New York. His uncle had a general store that was located in Selma, Alabama. So that's where he heads because he sees that he at least has some window of opportunity there in which he can make money. And once he arrived, he would start stocking shelves and checking inventory at the store. And we see just very, very early on that Sam is very hungry for work because even just working in his uncle's store wasn't really satisfying enough for him. So he ends up taking a job with a tin merchant, it says. And this was really just a fancy name for what would be a junk peddler. And listen to this. I think this is just true grit, how this kind of works out. Sam and the peddler, they would go around collecting scraps of tin, scraps of junk, basically, and they would put it in a cart and they would go farm to farm. And his boss would go make a deal with the farm owner. And generally, a lot of times, these farm owners, they didn't have a bunch of money either. So they would trade them livestock. So they might, buy a scrap of fence to mend a hole in their fence. In exchange, they would trade a pig for it, if you will. So one day, his boss would make a deal, and then he would tell Sam the following: "Catch and tie that animal, boy." It was Zemurray's first real job, racing through the slop with a rope in his hand. Paid $1 a week, he kept his job just long enough to know that he would rather be the man who owned the hog than the man who collected the junk, and would rather be the man who discovered the sheet metal than the man who owned the hog. And I think we see right here that Sam has a really deep drive. He's starting at the absolute very bottom. And this is his first lesson in seeing value where others simply saw waste. He learns to turn this trash into treasure, and this is going to serve him for the duration of his life. So Sam works his ass off and he saves up about $150, and he would soon hop a train heading south to Mobile, Alabama. He was heading to the bigger city where he thought that he could make some more money. And this is where his life really opens up right here. And let me paraphrase from the book, and we can get a feel of what it was like when he arrived in Mobile and what he would be facing. Mobile was a seedy industrial port filled with all the familiar types: the Sharpie, the financier, the scoundrel, the chucklehead, and the sport. Sam was a bit of everything. He could be shrewd, but he could also be naive. He was greedy for information, and I really loved this. I loved that he was curious. He had a young, curious mind, and he really takes charge of his path in life. The author would say the following: the waterfront was crossed by train tracks. Dozens of lines converged here. Boxcars crammed with coal, fruit, cotton, and cane stood on the sidings. The train sheds were crowded with peddlers, most of them Jewish immigrants from Poland and Russia. They bought merchandise off the decks of the ships and sold it in carts in the streets of Mobile. One evening, Sam stood on the wharf watching a Boston fruit banana boat sail into the harbor. And it's important right here to know that Boston Fruit is later going to become United Fruit, who would be the largest fruit company in the world. It's early on that Sam is seeing Boston Fruit sailing into the port, so he's getting this drilled into his mind early on, if you will. But as a young man, this doesn't have as much conscious impact on him. This is really a subconscious thing, I think, that's happening right here, seeing those large ships. Let's see, back to the book here real quick. Sam's keen observational skills and ability to see treasure where others see trash soon kicked in. The bananas that did not pass muster were dumped on the side of the yard, where they were further divided. Some were designated as turnings, meaning they were on their way to becoming worthless. At the end of the day, they were sold at a discount to store owners and peddlers. You could see them, with their carts piled high, trotting through the streets, calling, "Bananas! Bananas for sale! A nickel a bunch! Yes, we have bananas! We have bananas for sale!" The bananas that did not make the cut as greens or turnings were designated ripes and heaped into a sad pile. A ripe is a banana you left in the sun that has become freckled as a hardy boy. These bananas, still good to eat, delicious even, would never make it to the market in time. In less than a week, they would begin to soften and stink. As far as merchants were concerned, they were trash. Remember, Sam turns trash into treasure. Sam noticed everything: the care with which the bananas were handled, the way each boxcar was filled and rolled to a siding, how men from the banana company, college men, moved through the crowd barking orders, but he paid special attention to the growing pile of ripes. Now, at this point, we can see that Sam is really fixated on this pile of ripes, and he's recognizing a product that others simply saw as trash. This is a gift for Sam. And in my notes, I wrote junk collector, meaning that his past experience collecting junk, trading it for pigs, and then chasing those pigs around really helped him to redefine or refine his keen eye here. And for you and I believe this is an excellent lesson that we should always be working hard in building our skills. We never know when these are going to come into play one day. And I really see this like a tool in our toolbox that we can use at any point in time. Once you've learned a skill, there are endless possibilities. Now for Sam, he's going to take perhaps maybe his first major risk right here, and he would work out a deal to buy all of those ripes, leaving very little left over for him to get back home where he had intended to sell all of these ripe bananas. But there was one thing that he really knew, is that he had to move fast. Time was ticking. He didn't have a lot of time. And this is really the key. And the book says the following: Zemurray's first cargo consisted of a few thousand bananas. He did not spend all of his money, but retained a small balance, which he used to rent part of a boxcar on the Illinois Central. The trip to Selma was scheduled to take 3 days, meaning he would have just enough time to get the fruit to market before the sun did its worst. So as the train set off, things didn't start off so well, and they were moving very slowly, stopping at every station. in every town. And this was supposed to be a 3-day trip that turned into day 4 and day 5. And at this point, Sam's getting concerned. His bananas are starting to grow quite pungent. Now, what happens next? I think this is an extremely valuable lesson for you and I here. They're going to stop at this little train yard in Mississippi. And Sam, he gets off of the train and he's trying to convince the conductor and all of the trainsmen to move faster. He's like, man, I got these bananas here. They're going to rot. I got all my money in this. We need to move faster. And they didn't seem to express a lot of concern. But one of the brakemen, he would see Sam hustling and he's going to say the following: you've got a good product there. If you could just get word ahead to the towns along the line, I'm sure the grocery owners would meet you at the platforms and buy the bananas right off the boxcars. And I think right here, Mr. Edison would be happy to see the light bulb going off in Sam's head. And this is brilliant, brilliant advice: to keep your eyes and your ears open to all the different ways of thinking. Sam saw treasure where others saw trash, but he was just thinking about the next big step, getting the product to his hometown that was 3+ days away. He wasn't looking at all of the little opportunities along the way. This advice turns out to be a turning point for Sam. And let's see what happens. During the next delay, Zemurray went into the Western Union office and spoke to a telegraph operator. Having no money, Sam offered a deal. If the man radioed every operator ahead, asking each of them to spread the word to local merchants, dirt cheap bananas coming through for merchants and peddlers, Sam would share a percentage of the sale. When the Illinois Central arrived in the next town, customers were waiting. Zemurray talked terms through the boxcar door, a tower of ripes at his back. 10 for 8, 13 for 10. He broke off a bunch, put the money in his pocket. The whistle blew. The train rolled on. He sold the last banana in Selma, then went home in the dark. So not only did Zemurray sell all of his stock, he also didn't need to unload those thousands of bananas at his final destination and then try to go out and sell them cold to buyers. And by this time, it could have been possible that those bananas may not have even been good anymore. So by sending messages ahead, he got buyers warmed up and it created a buzz. And it was pure gold, as they say. And Sam's reward as a result, well, it would be $40 profit, which was quite a nice sum in 1905. And this was Sam's first major score. And he's going to soon do it again, and then again, and again. He had figured out how to move product faster than the big guys. He locked up his niche, and it was his. Learning lessons along the way, he became a risk taker, a salesman, and a brawler. And most importantly, he became known as the Banana Man. And that, my friend, is the start of Sam the Banana Man. I hope you enjoyed this mini preview of the podcast that I'll be working on and sharing in the next couple of weeks. If you have any comments or feedback, please feel free to leave that. I would enjoy seeing that. I am a new podcaster and I'm just trying to get my feet wet here and figure things out. So I thank you for listening. If you made it this far, please drop me a quick note. I would appreciate it. And until next time, make it a beautiful day in the neighborhood, my friend.